This boy vanished. Almost 10 years ago, now the FBI have discovered the strange truth. In the heart of a seemingly ordinary town lies an extraordinary mystery that has baffled authorities for nearly a decade. 10 years ago, a young boy vanished without a trace, leaving behind a community haunted by unanswered questions and shattered hearts. Now, just when all hope seemed lost, the FBI have discovered the strange truth that shatters preconceptions and challenges the boundaries of our understanding. Join us as we explore the top 20 missing people who vanished and were eventually found. Number 20. Edgar Latulip. Edgar Latulip's story stands out as truly extraordinary. Imagine living for 3 long decades without a clue about your own identity. At the age of 52, Edgar found himself in this exact predicament. For 30 years, he resided in various group homes, his mind a blank canvas devoid of memories of his past. Struggling with a psychological ailment, he was pegged with the mental capacity of a mere 12-year-old. Edgar's journey began near the majestic Niagara Falls when, at the tender age of 21, he was discovered with no recollection of his name or origins. It was as if his entire existence had been wiped clean. His subsequent years were spent in a bewildered haze until a remarkable turn of events occurred. Out of the blue, he started experiencing sudden flashbacks, fragments of a lost past flooding back into his consciousness. With the assistance of a compassionate social worker, Edgar embarked on a quest to unravel the mystery of his identity. Astonishingly, he unearthed his roots in Kitchener, Canada, a mere 80 miles from where he had spent the last 3 decades. It transpired that Edgar's troubled youth led him to flee from a mental institution in September 1986. After boarding a bus destined for Niagara Falls to end his life, fate intervened in an unexpected twist. Edgar suffered a head injury upon arrival, plunging him into a profound state of amnesia. With no recollection of his identity or origins, he settled in the Niagara region for the ensuing 3 decades. Meanwhile, his family mourned his assumed demise, believing he had carried out his tragic plan. Little did they know Edgar survived with only a memory impairment. At the age of 52, a television appearance featuring a reconstructed likeness of Edgar caught the attention of his astounded family. Recognizing him instantly, they contacted the authorities, leading to a heartwarming reunion. Sylva Wilson, Edgar's mother, expressed overwhelming emotions upon seeing her long-lost son, having spent years grappling with the anguish of his absence. She had resigned herself to the notion that Edgar had endured hardship or worse due to his condition. The miraculous reunion defied all expectations, bringing closure and joy after years of uncertainty. Number 19. Julian Hernandez. In 2002, the small town of Alabama was rocked by the sudden disappearance of 5-year-old Julian Hernandez from his family home. The culprit? Shockingly, it was his father, who left behind a letter confessing to taking the child. Julian vanished without a trace, leaving investigators baffled for over a decade. They tirelessly sifted through leads, hoping for a breakthrough. Ironically, Julian's actions unveiled the truth. 13 years later, as a teenager applying for college, he stumbled upon a startling discrepancy with his Social Security number. With the help of a school counselor, he uncovered his name listed in the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children database. Imagine the whirlwind of emotions that engulfed him. The FBI, along with local law enforcement and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, swiftly collaborated to confirm Julian's identity. The teenager found in Ohio was indeed Julian Hernandez. His father, Bobby Hernandez, faced the consequences of his deceit, charged with tampering with records and custody interference. Despite the betrayal, Julian remarkably expressed forgiveness towards his father, crediting him for his upbringing. Bobby received a 4-year prison sentence, sparking debate over the complexities of parental love and justice. Many argued that no parent should suffer the anguish of losing a child. Number 18. Robert McDonough. Imagine watching this unfold in a movie. You'd shake your head in disbelief. In May 2013, Robert McDonough, a 73-year-old man with dementia, vanished from his home in Leamington, Maine. Panic swept through the community as authorities scoured the nearby woods fruitlessly throughout the night. The following morning, a local news crew set up outside McDonough's house to cover the story of his disappearance. Then, out of nowhere, McDonough casually strolled into the scene, asking the bewildered news crew what was going on. He was safe and sound, having wandered into the neighboring forest. It's quite a plot twist. The rescue team had been so close to finding him during their search, yet missed him entirely. Number 17. Petra Pitka. Back in 1984, Petra Pitka, a 24-year-old computer science student from Brunswick, Germany, vanished without a trace. Her last known whereabouts were at the dentist's office, supposedly en route to her parents' house, yet she never made it there. This sparked a massive police investigation and drew attention from the nation's most watched TV programs. Despite extensive efforts, Petra remained elusive. Years passed, with occasional false leads, including one man's claim of responsibility, later retracted. The case went cold, and Petra was declared legally deceased in 1989. Imagine the astonishment when, 31 years later in 2015, during a routine police check following a burglary report, Petra was found alive over 200 miles away in Dorf. Living under the alias Mrs. Schneider for decades, she kept a low profile, using only cash and avoiding official documents. Petra did not explain her disappearance, expressing a desire to remain hidden from public view and estranged from her family. The motive behind her vanishing act remains a mystery. Her family, who had grieved her loss for over 3 decades, experienced a roller coaster of emotions upon learning she was alive. It's hard to fathom the shock and confusion they must have felt. How would you react if a loved one did something similar? Without a clear motive, feelings of anger and confusion are understandable. Number 16. Timothy Carney. In September 2004, Timothy Carney from New Jersey vanished after informing his employer of his tardiness for work. His abandoned vehicle was located near Newark, triggering a frantic search by his distraught parents. Nearly 7 agonizing years later, on September 23, 2011, Timothy was miraculously found safe. Details surrounding his whereabouts during those years remain sparse. However, his parents speculate that he may have been swayed by a religious group called the Gospel Outreach, leading him to sever ties with his family. The sudden reappearance of their long-lost son brought a mix of relief and bewilderment. Imagine the emotions swirling within his family as they grappled with the unexpected return after years of uncertainty. The mysterious circumstances surrounding Timothy's disappearance and subsequent discovery leave many questions unanswered, highlighting the complexities of human behavior and the enduring hope of reunion amidst adversity. Number 15. Lucy Ann Johnson. Lucy Johnson, born on October 14, 1935 in Alaska, led an unusual life. Married with an 8-year-old daughter named Linda, her life took a mysterious turn in 1961 when she disappeared from her home in Surrey, Canada. Strangely, it wasn't until 1964 that a missing persons report was filed, leaving a 3-year gap. Her husband raised suspicion as he delayed reporting Lucy's disappearance. The case eventually turned into a homicide investigation, with him as the primary suspect. Despite extensive searches, including excavating their backyard, no evidence was found. Years turned into decades with no trace of Lucy. In 2012, the police reopened the case as a cold one. Lucy's daughter, Linda, then 60, refused to give up hope. She placed missing person ads across British Columbia and the Yukon, where her mother had connections. Astonishingly, a woman responded, claiming to be Lucy's daughter and asserting that Lucy was alive and well, living in the Yukon. The revelation stunned everyone involved. Linda wasted no time and immediately made her way to the Yukon. After 52 years, she instantly recognized her mother, Lucy. Lucy's departure all those years ago stemmed from an abusive husband who refused to allow her to take Linda and her brother. Settling in the Yukon, Lucy started anew, forming a completely different family. Unaware of her status as a missing person and the extensive efforts to find her, Lucy was shocked. Linda couldn't help but wonder why her mother hadn't returned for them during those years. Despite lingering questions, Linda was overjoyed to discover her mother alive and well. She now not only reunited with Lucy, but also gained an entirely new family. Number 14. Elizabeth Smart. The abduction of Elizabeth Smart in 2002, when she was just 14 years old, was quite intriguing. Taken from her home in Salt Lake City, Utah, by Brian Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzee, Elizabeth endured a terrifying 9-month ordeal. Held captive on the outskirts of Salt Lake City and later in San Diego County, California, she suffered repeated abuse and threats from Mitchell. Elizabeth's rescue came the following year after she was recognized while out in public with her captors. Since then, Elizabeth has become a vocal advocate for missing persons and assault victims. Mitchell received a life sentence, while Barzee served 15 years in prison for their crimes. Many believe they deserve their sentences, considering the trauma they inflicted. Number 13. Carlos de Salazar. In 1996, Dr. Carlos Sanchez Ortiz de Salazar vanished from Seville, Spain. The tale suggests that, overwhelmed by severe depression, he left his homeland to start afresh elsewhere. Years passed with no word, leading to his legal declaration of death in 2010. Then, 5 years later, mushroom pickers stumbled upon de Salazar living in the woods of Tuscany, Italy, after 18 years of complete silence. Astonishingly, he revealed his true identity, substantiating it with documents and photographs. These proof pieces were later shared with a missing persons organization. However, the story takes a frustrating turn. Despite his miraculous rediscovery, de Salazar dismantled his makeshift abode and vanished back into the wilderness, seeking solitude once more. The mysterious ending leaves many questions unanswered, leaving us to wonder about the motivations behind his reclusive lifestyle and the depths of human resilience. Number 12. Nguyen Thi Van. In 1992, in northern Vietnam, a tragic series of events unfolded for Nguyen Thi Van, then just 16 years old. After arriving home late one night, her mother, Nguyen Thi Van, disciplined her by locking her out of the house. Rebellious and unwilling to wait, Van ventured out to a karaoke bar with friends. At the bar, she encountered a seemingly friendly woman who, unbeknownst to Van, drugged her drink. Subsequently, Van and her friends were trafficked to China, where they were coerced into marriages with much older men, some as old as 70 or even 80 years. Over the next 21 years, while her mother tirelessly searched for her, Van endured the hardships of forced marriage, forced into the role of a housewife. Eventually, with the aid of a compassionate truck driver, Van managed to escape and return to Vietnam. Her mother, who had believed her daughter to be dead, experienced overwhelming joy upon Van's return, but also profound regret for her earlier disciplinary actions. This heartbreaking tale underscores the consequences of excessive discipline and the enduring love of a parent, tinged with remorse for past mistakes. Number 11. Jaycee Dugard. On a sunny day in June 1991, the tranquility of South Lake Tahoe, California was shattered when 11-year-old Jaycee was snatched from a street just steps away from her home. It was a harrowing moment witnessed by her stepfather, who, despite his desperate attempts, couldn't thwart the abductors in time. The subsequent frantic search efforts involving dogs, aircraft, and the FBI yielded no trace of Jaycee, leaving her stepfather haunted by a relentless sense of guilt for not protecting her. As time passed, investigations unearthed disturbing details about the primary suspect, Philip Guiteau, who had a history of troubling behavior predating Jaycee's abduction. Despite previous convictions, including offenses against minors, Guiteau had been prematurely released from a lengthy prison sentence, a decision widely criticized as unjust. For 18 agonizing years, Jaycee was held captive in a shed tucked away in the Guiteau's backyard in Antioch, California. Subjected to relentless abuse and manipulation, she endured a life of isolation, giving birth to 2 daughters fathered by her captor. Her existence was marked by stringent control, with minimal contact with the outside world. It wasn't until August 2009, when vigilant Berkeley police officers grew suspicious of Guiteau, that the veil of secrecy surrounding Jaycee's disappearance began to lift. This pivotal moment led to her liberation and the apprehension of her captors, sparking global headlines and exposing flaws in law enforcement procedures for missing person cases. Jaycee's journey from captivity to freedom is a testament to her indomitable spirit. Through her books, A Stolen Life and Freedom, My Book of Firsts, she shares her remarkable resilience and the challenges of rebuilding her life after such unimaginable trauma. Number 10. Jan Broberg. Today, Jan Broberg is a skilled actress, known for her performances on stage and her role as Nurse Louise on the popular WB series Everwood. However, behind her success lies a deeply troubling past. In 1972, Broberg endured a series of traumatic kidnappings, starting when her parents met the Birch-Told family through their church. Initially, Broberg formed a close bond with Robert Birch-Told, developing a trusting father-daughter relationship. Tragically, Birch betrayed this trust by kidnapping Broberg and taking her to his trailer home in Mexico. Despite efforts to rationalize his actions, including convincing others that he hadn't kidnapped her, Broberg was ultimately rescued, only to be kidnapped again 2 years later. This time, she was held in California for 4 months before being rescued by the FBI. Broberg's harrowing experiences have since been immortalized in the Netflix documentary Abducted in Plain Sight, shedding light on the complexities of her ordeal. Number 9. Steve Carter. Growing up, Steve Carter was always aware of his adoption. His parents never kept it a secret. Yet, as he matured, he couldn't shake the lingering questions about his past. Why did his birth certificate indicate a birth year different from his actual birthday? Who were his biological parents? And why did they relinquish him for adoption? Inspired by the astonishing tale of Carolina White, who unearthed her abduction from an Atlanta hospital as an infant, Steve embarked on a quest to uncover his origins. A cursory online search led him to missingkids.com, a repository for unresolved child disappearances. Amidst the array of faces, he stumbled upon a photo of a baby named Marks Panama Barnes, accompanied by an artist's rendering of the grown child. To his astonishment, he recognized himself. Delving deeper, Steve learned he was born in Hawaii, but vanished at 6 months old, along with his mother, Charlotte Moriarty. It emerged that Charlotte, battling mental health issues, would frequently vanish for days, but one disappearance proved permanent. His father, Mark Barnes, filed a missing persons report in June 1977, igniting a decades-long search. The investigation unveiled a grim truth. His mother absconded with him, assuming false identities. Eventually, she was institutionalized, leaving Steve in protective custody. Vanishing again, she left him orphaned, mere miles from where his father tirelessly sought him. 3 years later, he was adopted under an altered birth date and name. In a remarkable twist, Steve reunited with his father, now in his twilight years. DNA testing sealed their bond, affirming their kinship. Through adversity and separation, the enduring thread of familial connection persevered, culminating in a poignant reunion between a father and son separated for decades by circumstance, but forever linked by blood. Number 8. Lula Gillespie Miller. In 1974, Lula Miller, a young mother of 3 from Indiana, vanished shortly after giving birth to her 3rd child. Unlike typical disappearances, Lula's departure was deliberate. Feeling overwhelmed at just 28 years old, she deemed herself too young for motherhood. Consequently, she relinquished custody of her children to her parents and departed from home. For decades, her whereabouts remained a perplexing puzzle. In an unexpected turn, Gillespie Miller, Lula's spouse, was discovered alive in Texas in 2016, living under an assumed identity. This breakthrough followed Indiana State Police Detective Sergeant Scott Jarvis's involvement in Lula's case. Prompted by a request from the Doe Network, a volunteer organization aiding missing persons cases, Sergeant Jarvis pursued leads. Initially, he considered exhuming an unidentified body for DNA analysis, suspecting it might be Lula. However, his investigation led him to a woman resembling Lula in Texas. Upon confronting her, Gillespie Miller acknowledged her true identity, though she hadn't committed any crime. She had chosen to conceal her identity voluntarily. Meanwhile, her daughter Tammy, whom she had never met, was informed of her mother's discovery. Despite the emotional toll of being estranged from her mother, Tammy hoped for closure and reconciliation. No one should endure the pain of being abandoned by a parent, and Tammy's longing for connection resonates deeply. Number 7. Harold Lovel. Another person thought to be a victim of John Wayne Gacy's heinous crimes was Harold Wayne Lovel. Unlike random criminal acts, Gacy was the culprit behind this presumed death. In the late 1970s, many suspected Gacy of killing Lovel, although his body remained unidentified. In the early 2010s, as police sought to identify unknown victims of Gacy, they delved into Lovel's case. Surprisingly, when Lovel was shown photos of Gacy's victims, he couldn't recognize any of them or recall ever meeting them. Their investigation led them to South Florida, where they stumbled upon a startling revelation. Lovel was alive and well. Astonishingly, he was unaware of being presumed dead or considered a victim of Gacy, whom he had known and worked for before his disappearance. According to Lovel, he left Chicago due to family issues and remained out of contact for over 3 decades, unbeknownst to authorities and those who believed him to be deceased. Number 6. Missing woman unknowingly joins the search for herself. During an Icelandic tour, a peculiar incident unfolded when an unidentified woman was reported missing, sparking an unexpected sequence of events. Described as Asian, 160 centimeters tall, dressed in dark clothing and fluent in English, she vanished near a volcanic canyon in southern Iceland. Fellow tour members, unable to locate her, prompted a police search. According to witnesses, the woman disembarked from the tour bus, but failed to return when it was time to depart. Unbeknownst to everyone, she had changed her attire at a bus stop, returning unnoticed. Ironically, when her description circulated among the search party, she didn't recognize it as her own and joined the search for herself. Over 50 individuals, including foot patrols, vehicles, and a standby helicopter, scoured the area for nearly 2 days. In an amusing twist, the woman finally realized she fit the description and promptly surrendered to the police, confirming her identity as the missing person. She had merely changed her clothing, transitioning from dark to colored attire at the last bus stop. Ultimately, the search concluded with a comedic resolution to an extraordinary weekend. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. This boy vanished almost 10 years ago. Now the FBI have discovered the strange truth. In the heartland of Illinois, a perplexing tale unfolded, etching itself into the annals of mysteries. Timothy Pitson, a cherubic 6-year-old, vanished from the fabric of existence, leaving behind a trail of bewilderment and despair. It was a disappearance that transcended time, marking a decade of unanswered questions and relentless pursuit of truth. The enigma deepened when Timothy's mother, Amy Fry Pitson, was discovered lifeless in a nondescript hotel room, her final act shrouded in cryptic messages hinting at Timothy's safety yet eternal obscurity. The FBI embarked on an odyssey of investigations, traversing landscapes of hope and desolation, only to be met with elusive trails and false leads. Then, just as hope flickered amidst the gloom, a revelation unfurled. A young man surfaced, claiming the identity of Timothy Pitson. Yet, in the labyrinth of forensic scrutiny, the truth remained elusive, DNA unraveling the fabric of his claim, leaving the mystery as impenetrable as ever. But what truth lurks behind the shadows of uncertainty? Foul play or a sinister plot? Let us know your thoughts on the issue in the comments below. Number 5. Karina White. In Harlem, New York City back in 1987, Karina White's life took a bewildering turn when she was snatched from the hospital at a tender 19 days old. Raised as Nadra Nettie Nance by Anita Ann Petway in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Karina grew up oblivious to her real heritage. Doubts about her origins arose during her teenage years, particularly when Petway failed to produce a birth certificate upon request. Matters came to a head in 2005 when Karina, now an expectant mother, needed her birth certificate for medical insurance. Petway's provision of a counterfeit document raised suspicions, prompting her eventual confession that she wasn't Karina's biological parent. Driven to unearth her true identity, Karina scoured the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website, where she stumbled upon a photo resembling her and her infant daughter. This pivotal discovery led her to her biological parents. Subsequent DNA testing in 2011 confirmed her as the missing baby from 1987. The emotional reunion with her birth parents, Joy White and Carl Tyson, marked a profound moment in Karina's life. Adapting to her newfound reality posed challenges, having lived under a false identity for over 2 decades. Nonetheless, she found solace in reconnecting with her biological family, all while acknowledging the affection she held for Petway, who had cared for her during her formative years. Petway's voluntary surrender to the FBI in 2011 culminated in her conviction on federal kidnapping charges, resulting in a 12-year prison sentence. Despite the tumultuous journey, Karina, now legally recognized as Karina White, but still affectionately known as Nettie, speaks of a newfound sense of wholeness upon discovering her true roots. Number 4. Brenda Heist. On a cold February 8 morning in 2002, Brenda Heist did something inexplicable. She dropped off her children at school and vanished without a trace. At just 54 years old, Brenda's sudden disappearance left her family shattered. Her daughter, a tender 8, and her son, aged 12, were left bewildered and heartbroken. In the aftermath, Brenda's husband sought a legal declaration of her death. 11 agonizing years later, the mystery unfolded. Brenda resurfaced, but her return brought a mix of emotions. She deliberately abandoned her family in Pennsylvania to lead a transient life in Florida. Brenda hitchhiked there, mingling with a group of homeless individuals, and eked out a living through odd jobs. In her defense, Brenda cited stress as her reason for fleeing. However, the reunion didn't evoke joy. Her husband expressed no desire to reconnect, while her daughter, now an adult, harbored resentment, feeling her mother didn't deserve reconciliation. Brenda's unexpected return brought closure to some, but for her fractured family, the wounds remained raw, leaving the story with a bittersweet conclusion. Number 3. William Burgess Powell. In 2004, a perplexing discovery unfolded behind a Burger King in Richmond Hills, Georgia. A man was found covered in fire ants near the restaurant's dumpster. Police rushed to the scene and transported him to the hospital. Upon regaining consciousness, he was utterly unable to recall his name. Consequently, he was temporarily dubbed Burger King Doe, or BKD. Medical professionals diagnosed him with amnesia, yet puzzlingly, they found no head injuries that could explain his memory loss. It was speculated that his amnesia might have stemmed from a different traumatic event. Despite his memory loss, he retained fragments of his past, including his birth date, August 29, 1948, the fact that he had 3 brothers, and a belief that he hailed from Denver, Colorado. For years, his identity remained a mystery until he took on the name Benjamin Kyle with the assistance of friends. His plight gained national attention through television appearances, including spots on the FBI's missing persons list and the Dr. Phil show. Despite widespread exposure, no one could identify him. Then, in 2016, a breakthrough occurred. A genealogist matched his DNA to William Burgess Powell, who had vanished from Lafayette, Indiana in 1976. However, a significant gap of 28 years remained unaccounted for between Powell's disappearance and his discovery in 2004. There were no records of him working or residing anywhere during that period. Speculation arose regarding his whereabouts during those missing years, with theories ranging from abduction to homelessness or involvement in clandestine experiments. Despite resolving his identity, the mystery surrounding his missing years persists, prompting authorities to assign him a new social security number due to the absence of previous records. Number 2. Casey Hathaway. Here's a disturbing tale. Casey Hathaway, a mere 3-year-old, vanished into the wilderness, only to be miraculously found alive after a harrowing 3-day ordeal. Imagine a young child braving the unforgiving wilds of Craven County, North Carolina, enduring bitter cold and relentless rain. Despite the harsh conditions, Casey somehow persevered. In a remarkable twist, Casey shared his survival secret. He claimed a bear kept him company during his time in the woods, yet there's no concrete evidence confirming the presence of such a creature in the area. The authorities launched an exhaustive search effort, deploying helicopters, drones, canine units, and countless volunteers, yet Casey remained elusive. Then, like something out of a storybook, rescuers stumbled upon Casey on the 3rd day, responding to his plaintive calls for his mother. It was nothing short of a miracle. To this day, the mystery of Casey's wilderness adventure lingers. Was the bear he spoke of truly a bear, or could it have been something else altogether? The mystery surrounding Casey's survival tale continues to captivate and baffle. Number 1. Denise Bower. It's astounding how much turmoil money can stir up. Take the case of Denise Bower, a 24-year-old bookkeeper who vanished without a trace in 1985. The only clue, a cryptic note left for her husband, hinted at her abduction. Despite numerous tips pouring in over the years, Denise remained elusive until 2002, when a private investigator finally located her. The puzzle deepened as details emerged. Denise had been living incognito in Florida under the alias Denise James. She confessed that she fled to escape her former employer after being embroiled in a financial scandal. Allegedly, Denise had embezzled over $10,000 under the orders of her boss, who threatened her life when she considered revealing the truth. In a daring escape, Denise concocted a plan, leaving behind a ransom note for her husband before disappearing. She meticulously orchestrated her flight, driving to the airport, purchasing a plane ticket with cash, and vanishing into anonymity. Ultimately, Denise's tale is one of survival and redemption. She has since reunited with her parents, leaving behind the shadows of her past. This captivating saga serves as a cautionary tale of the perils greed can lead to, while also highlighting the resilience of the human spirit. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.